Senator Scullion.
Mr Deputy President, I rise to take note of answers given by Minister Ludwig, and I take this opportunity to congratulate yourself, Senator Parry, on your ascension to the Deputy Presidency. I know from this side we know that we'll consider that probably just practice for the real job very shortly.
Thank you, Senator Scullion. Are you moving the motion to take note of the answers by Senator Ludwig?
One of the questions that I asked the Minister, Mr Deputy President, what would Nico Botha do, and what access to what programs he would have in regard to him now having to shoot some 200 animals every day until some 3,000 animals have been culled. And as part of the answer, and I'm sure the Minister wasn't being glib about that, but to say, well, we've referred this to Human Services, and Centrelink are going to give him a call. So here we are. He would know by my question that I've done the arithmetic for him. It's some $125,000 in losses every day. Sadly, the $5,000 that would be provided to Mr Botha would only just cover the bullets. And I think it just it smacks of arrogance to simply say, well, we'll just ring Centrelink, it'll be all right. And it must be just the completely blinkered government that cannot understand the human tragedy that is happening out there in North Australia. And we now see this is coupled, Mr Deputy President, so closely to the animal welfare issues, the terrible irony that we were trying to prevent. And I think the motive for that prevention was good, but the way this government has gone about it has completely and utterly bungled it. And of course, that's just simply one demographic, and of course property owners right across North Australia, if that's their response to ring Centrelink, I don't think the future in terms of any sort of comfort for some amelioration of these decisions is going to be very satisfactory. There's another demographic, of course, right across North Australia that are very fond of my heart, Mr Deputy President, and that's the Aboriginal Australians who are working in so many of these cattle stations across the country. I've spoken to them in Timber Creek, in Lake Nash, Newcastle Waters and in Beetaloo recently. And there are 7,000 participants, Aboriginal participants across North Australia in this industry. And of those 7,000, of course, they actually support nearly 17,000 people in extended families and communities that are absolutely dependent on this. Not only in terms of ensuring that they have the pride because they're part of an extended family that earns their money instead of getting it off welfare, but the pride, because they know the alternative. It's Centrelink. It's Centrelink. And they don't like to have anything to do with Centrelink. They've moved away from that in the pastoral industry. And of course it's a great irony that they now own some 55 stations in the Northern Territory, 22 in West Australia and 6 in North Queensland. They own it. But they started out as the backbone of this industry, Mr Deputy President. It's not the Kidmans of the world that developed the cattle industry. It was the Aboriginal stockmen, the Aboriginal managers. They are the backbone and the framework of an industry that they have just recently in historical times, had the opportunity to own their own land, to own their own cattle stations, to provide for their very own employment, to have some independence and some pride. And now, of course, they own a stake in their own business, a very, very important business, and a business that has brought spin-offs because people now who had an expectation of perhaps was going on CDP, or an expectation that I would perhaps be intergenerationally poor because the expectation was I didn't go to work, I went to Centrelink. Well, that cycle eventually has been broken. Eventually they're having some ownership in their own land and some pride in how they can provide for their people and for their country. And of course, to great sadness now, they've asked me, well, what will I do, where can I go? And I've said, well, you know, again, I'm sorry, it's back to Centrelink. So here we have a government. Here we have a government who's made a decision, a knee-jerk decision, who's not only affected the pastoral industry in a fiscal sense and the people within it, but imagine them emasculating our first Australians, taking away those vestiges of pride that they have worked for so long to achieve. In the last couple of decades, it's slowly come to fruition. They're slowly getting back to where they should be. They're so proud of the work they've done, and they enjoy this work so much. If you ever want to see a bloke enjoying his job, who seeks for no more than to get up every day and work on a pastoral station, talk to an Aboriginal stockman. They love their work. And this government has said, sorry about that. Instead of putting people from welfare into employment, they've managed very well to take people from perfectly good jobs and stick them on
Order.
welfare.
Senator Scullion, your time's expired.